There are literally hundreds of thousands of different chironomid patterns you can tie and adapt to the different environments that you fish. And this is just another on-the-bench adaptation, and it's called the Black Bead Slinger. Make sure you have these materials ready before you tie the pattern. For the hook, we'll use a size 10 emerger. We'll tie with some 8/0 wine thread, a 5/32 black tungsten bead for the bead, some white antron for the gills, some gunmetal gray Flashabou for the body, and some red stretch flex for the rib. To start the fly off, I've put my bead on the hook, and when you put your bead on the hook, there's a wide end and a narrow end. Put the wide end towards the eyelet, and I've taken a small little clump of my white antron. So I'm going to tie this right at the eyelet and have it pull forward, and this is going to be our gills. Whip finish off so you can remove your thread, and then what we're going to do is pull that bead up and just to form your gills on the fly, and we'll cut this to size once we finish off the pattern and retie your thread back on to continue with the pattern. For the next stage, we're going to tie in the ribbing, and there's lots of different materials out there to use for ribbing. I like the stretch flex because you can actually pull it quite tight, make a nice thin rib, and it's transparent so you can actually see through it and gives it a real lifelike look. So we're going to take that red stretch flex, and when I tie it in, I'm going to tie it in midway on the hook and then pull it tight just to make it nice and thin as I wrap it to keep the body thin, and tie it halfway down the hook shank. Since it is a chironomid, we want to keep this body fairly thin, so I've taken only about 3 strands of my gunmetal gray Flashabou. I'm going to tie it in about midway again. Wrap that thread back right to the halfway down the hook shank. Get my thread forward again, and then we'll start wrapping up the nice gunmetal gray body. And again, keep it thin. The next stage in the fly is to wrap up our rib, and when we wrap this rib up, you want to pull it fairly tight. So this does thin right out. So we want to take about, six turns up, and I am pulling this nice and tight. And the cool thing about this stretch flex is you can see the gunmetal gray underneath the stretch flex, and it gives it a little bit of that chromy red look. So to finish the fly off, I like to build up a nice red head behind that bead. It really sets off the body. So what I'm going to do is I have my wine thread, I'm going to build up just a little bit of a red thorax right behind that bead. Once I've got it built up and tapered, I'm going to whip finish, again, right behind the bead. And then what we're going to do is cut our gills to the right length. And again, you want the gills just short off the front, kind of a 1/4 of an inch, 1/8 of an inch, just to give it a little white gills off the front of the hook. So there it is, the finished black bead slinger. This is a slight adaptation from our gunslinger pattern we did tie on the website, and I just didn't put in the orange slashes of that tulip fabric paint that you can put in there. There's lots of different chironomid patterns out there. Just head to the bench, change up the patterns, and see what you come up with. To watch all our latest Sport Fishing on the Fly episodes and to order Sport Fishing on the Fly merchandise, head to www.sfotf.ca, and if you would like to book an adventure like this one shown, head to ontheflyadventures.ca and book yourself the trip of a lifetime.